It will eventually load. There we go. I think we are live in the Book of Faces. So hello, Facebook.
Hello.
I have given up on my laptop today. It was just not loading to go into the group. So we're just going live on my page. Lucky you guys. So before we go live, let's click record. Slow today.
That's okay. Everything happens for a reason.
Today is to test my patience. I'm going to be honest. For 28 minutes, my page was loading to go live. Because there's an option through Zoom to do that. But anyways, we are finally live on the personal page as opposed to the group. Like I said, you guys are lucky and you get to watch our weekly podcast this way. So today's topic is, I already forgot it. Identifying energetic drains that cause you anxiety. And you guys are so lucky because today my anxiety is on peak performance. So I will be able to help you identify very many of these drains. Let's start off with the very first one that comes into my mind that I've already been experiencing for about a week, which is when we are unwell, when we are sick. That right there is a huge trigger for those of us who live with anxiety. So, and it shows up on its own, right? You know, you start your cold or your flu feeling kind of numbed to the feelings and emotions, and then anxiety takes over, and it's just like a constant experience of anxiety. And this is where we can take the time to identify where it's coming from, what's causing that anxiety. And I know I'm going to say what a lot of you don't want to hear, because I don't want to hear it myself very often, but you got to sit with it. You got to sit with it. You got to sit with that anxiety and talk to it. And that is how you're going to identify what is triggering you, what is causing you that anxiety, what will continue to cause you anxiety after this storm passes, because it passes, it always does. So, and if we don't identify them, then we'll continue to suffer. It is the saddest and yet the simplest truth of this anxiety experience, of this anxiety that we are either constantly living with or once in a while we experience. So how do you identify those triggers? You sit with it. You start writing, right? The how is the simplest part. The what is the hardest part. So for the next 26 minutes, yes, my brain still works for math, Bethany and I will just share different examples, different scenarios, different triggers, in hopes of helping you to identify all these different drains. So, oversleeping. Some of you might be surprised to hear this one, but oversleeping and also not sleeping enough is one of the biggest sources of anxiety that we have, that we are not aware of. When you wake up with anxiety, that usually is the loudest telltale as to you're either sleeping too much or not enough. Naps. So let's say you're like me, who wakes up with anxiety once in a while and then tries to go back to sleep in hopes that you will wake up and the anxiety will be gone. And usually it does not work that way. Usually what happens, and there's actual science behind it, that it amplifies the anxiety and depression. Sleeping too much amplifies it. Even though you might feel better after that nap today, after that nap tomorrow, after the nap tomorrow, but in a week, maybe even less than a week, you will start to feel that constant anxiety of that pending of due. Social media is a huge part of it as well. So sleep is huge. And then on top of it, the nutrition of what you are putting into your body. That one is huge. And the reason tomorrow, Shell and I will be talking about nutrition. Nice. And the effects it has on your body. And everybody's like, yes. But it's a lot. I want you to think about it this way. We are meant to live eating foods that are alive. A vegetable, if you eat it raw, and you can eat it raw, is alive as it goes into your body. And it gives you everything you really need. Now, I'm not talking about, just eat one vegetable and it gives you everything. Of course, don't quote me on, you eat one vegetable and that's it. I don't need to eat anything else. That's not how it works. I'm just talking about eating live foods. And now we're living in times where everything is packaged, everything is processed. It has very little nutritional value. And the system has been designed to make us feel sick and just above surviving when it comes to our food and nutrition, where our bodies are actually malnourished. Well, how can you say my body is malnourished when I have a lot of the body to carry, right? Being overweight. That is also a huge sign of being malnourished. Eating canned foods, eating packaged foods, and eating things that are dead can cause anxiety because our body is, like I said, barely functioning, barely surviving, because it's surviving on eating pastas, rice, beans that are in the can, right? So those are the first things that I want everyone to take a look at when it comes to, could this possibly be what's causing me anxiety? Is it really just my body in this state of survival and I am interpreting this as anxiety of everything else outside of myself when it's actually happening on the inside of myself? And this is the first place I ask all of my clients to take a look at. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a professional when it comes to nutrition. But even just knowing a little bit helps them to identify that, yeah, my body is not at peak state. My body is going through a lot because I have been neglecting it without knowing that that's what I've been doing. Because I've been taught that, you eat macaroni and cheese and you're good. But there's not very much nutrition in macaroni and cheese. And then on top of it, if you're eating macaroni and cheese from a package and it's powdered cheese, there's phthalates in that shit, which is toxic to the body. So the moment that I learned that, which was 4 years ago, I believe, I got rid of all the macaroni and cheese from our house because phthalates causes infertility in boys. So sleep, nutrition, hydration, exercise, and rest. So those that I've just mentioned. How are you sleeping? Identify those drains. Are you staying up late? Because, scientifically, you are supposed to be in bed by 10:30, because from 10:30 until 12 a.m., that is the most primal time for your brain to go through its own, that's its own healing time. That's the best way how I'll explain it right now without going through, into deep details. And then what time are you waking up, right? Your thoughts are huge triggers for your anxiety as well. And the body is the one that causes us to, to have certain interpretations of our anxieties. So sleep, nutrition, we just talked about that. Hydration, are you drinking enough water? And perhaps you're drinking other liquids that are not good for your body. Identify those liquids. Right? Do you need help with eliminating those liquids out of your life? Or are you okay on doing it on your own? Rest. Now, rest does not mean sleep. And this is where a lot of people have those two confused. That if I go to sleep, that's my rest. No. Rest means sitting down, and pardon my language, but this is my favorite phrase, and doing fuck all. Right? And that also means no external stimuli. Means no TV. A book is actually helpful, but for some it causes them anxiety. For me, sometimes reading causes me anxiety, and I'm just like, oh my god, I can't. Right? So reading might be one of your triggers. And exercise. This one is a huge one. Now, some people will argue that cleaning a house and doing gardening is not exercise, whereas a professional will tell you that is exercise. It's very light exercise. We're not all meant to be, I'm just picturing these videos that I've seen where, husband and wife or friends or whatever, it doesn't matter, boy or girl, two boys or whatnot, where they're standing in the plank position and one of them just jumps over the other one and the other one rolls underneath, like this gymnastics, this powerful strength that we all are able to acquire. But our mind tells us that this is what exercise is supposed to look like, and I can't do that, so therefore I'm not gonna do anything. But gardening, I mean, right now not much gardening we can do, so it's more like shoveling the driveway and there's a lot of snow. So those are the things that we need to start off with identifying. The how do I put it? The things that we do all the time that are required for survival. Movement is required for survival. Sleep is required for survival. Nutrition, hydration, and rest. These are all just basic survival needs that we all have, right? And then on top of it, your how do I put it? People you talk to, your relationships with people. Socials, there you go, socials, that's the word I'm looking for. How social are you? Those are also important for our survival. They're not our basic survival needs, even though they should be, because when we spend time not talking to anyone for a week, we can go crazy. I spent a week barely talking to anyone outside of my home, and I feel like I'm going crazy. That's why my anxiety today, I already told Bethany, it's like, it feels like it's constant anxiety that has not left my body, and it's under my skin. So I feel like I'm gonna take a pause from talking now. And Bethany, I know you have a lot that you can contribute to this, and you've been taking notes as well, so please share what you have in the beautiful brain of yours. So
All
I
right.
think,
Awesome.
right.
Sounds Thank you. And I loved everything you said. Some of those things that you were saying, I wrote down. So it's like, great minds think alike. Um, but some other things that came up for me that I find that for me personally drain my energy, and then also just examples that I've dealt with in the past or like other people have dealt with. One was anger. I noticed for me when I get angry, I instantly like I'll be in that high anger and then I move down into that shame and guilt. So then anxiety kind of like comes in like, oh, why were you acting that way? So it's kind of like a cycle with anger. Another thing is like you talked about with socials, those draining energy, the people that just like suck the energy out, like energy vampires. That's a good way to describe them. Another like being sick and under the weather like you talked about, overdoing, not giving your time to kind of rest, like you said, rest and recharge, when you're just doing and you're not like having that time to just pause and breathe and reflect on what's going on in life, how you're feeling. So that constant go, go, go. Also control, like when you want to control other people, other things, all that stuff around you, and you learn, oh, you can't control it. Anxiety will, you'll get drained and anxiety will come in because it's like, well, what can I control? Oh my goodness. But one thing that I want to tell you that you can control is yourself. So in those times, like for me, when I'm like trying to control certain things and I start to get like a little anxious or a little burnt out, I just remember, you know what, you can control yourself. So why don't you start there? I put myself into check with those things. Another thing that came up was like that scarcity, the scarcity feeling, that scarcity mindset of not having enough, or that what ifs of, oh, am I going to be able to get this again? I know that's in the past been a huge energetic drain for me. And sometimes it gets triggered. And I have my healthy coping mechanisms and my tools and medicines that help me get out of that now. But in the past, I didn't. And until I identified that scarcity, I feel like I was living in a state kind of like you described, how you're kind of feeling at this moment. Another thing that comes up is fear. I mean, but it makes sense. Anxiety, fear, same thing in a way, but having that excess fear of the unknown. Comparing yourself to others will drain you, because really you should just compare yourself to yourself, because that's where the magic is. Compare yourself to yesterday if you have to compare something, or last year. Perfectionism, and I know we had a whole video on perfectionism before we had a whole episode. That's a huge one, and that's something I've worked through and have my moments, of course, where I get to like, oh, this wasn't perfect. It's like, it's never gonna be perfect. Like, just do your thing. Like you were saying, thoughts, and I wanted to add in words and actions, because sometimes when you say something to someone and you're like, ooh, why did I say that? So it causes that anxiety. Then your actions as well, as like, let's say you got angry and you threw away, like let's say your kid isn't picking up his toys and you get angry, so you're like, oh well, if you're not going to clean up, I'll throw away all your toys. And then they really don't clean up and you happen to throw it away. Like, of course you're trying to teach your child a lesson, but it's a really big energetic drain, because you're not like, it's causing more negative feelings behind it instead of teaching in a positive way. Like for me, I started to implement a daily tasks. And so what Uriah does, Uriah is my son, what he does is he has 3 tasks. And if he completes the task, he gets a certain amount of money, and that's his daily allowance. And so he that's one way I feel like is a healthy way to help clean up. But that's beside, that's kind of like off on a tangent. Another thing that came up was, like you said, dehydration, lack of movement. So now that I said all these extra drains, how are we gonna help fix ourselves, help heal ourselves? Well, like you said, feeling the feelings, resting and relaxing. your diet, having a healthy lifestyle. Some other things that came up for me is just really being in the moment and going with the flow. Patience is a big one. Asking yourself self-assessment questions. So like, why is this draining me? How is it draining me? Really digging deep inside your feelings. Breath work, that's going to help a lot. Going out in nature, that's one of my favorite things. When I'm feeling a little uneasy, overwhelmed, burnt out, I go outside. Even if it's cold, I still go outside, because when you connect with Mother Nature, in my opinion, I feel like it will, and I've experienced it, but it brings a lot of balance and harmony. It helps you have more clarity as well. And sometimes with the anxiety that comes up, having those energetic drains, when you go outside, you're recharging. And that's also mindfulness techniques as well. So like yoga and meditation, gratitude practice is another thing that comes up for me. All these things, and the stuff you said, I feel like are all amazing tools and medicines and healthy coping mechanisms, instead of going towards the unhealthy ones that will just keep draining you and draining you and draining you until you're like, I have nothing left. So fill your cup up. That's another one, to help. And I know sometimes when you have those days, it's hard to like peek out of that hole. It's hard. But for me, I just remember, I will go outside. That's my major thing. Like if I'm really having that hard time and I can't get out of that hole, journaling, yoga, meditation, my water activation, and nature. Those are 5 things that I can go to like right away. And I'm like, all right, I am reset, recharged, and rejuvenated. And sometimes it doesn't happen that fast, or I don't get complete sense of balance, but it helps just a little bit. So then that gives me hope, and to remember that it'll pass. Yeah. So those are.
We have Nicole who commented and wants to know, do you have any recommendations on how to not attract certain kinds of people? Like I seem to pull in men with the same issues, even if I pick them because they claim to be the exact opposite of what they are. So it sounds like, Nicole, this is a huge drain that you have identified of where your anxiety is coming from, drain of your energy as well. And I wish I could tell you there was a really quick solution to this issue, but there is no quick fix it right away. Here's what it is. The reason why you continue to attract those types of men into your life is because of how you see yourself and how you view yourself and how much you care for yourself. And the reason why I say that is because the moment that you truly, really, truly, deep down inside of you realize that you do not deserve this kind of a treatment, that this will no longer be okay, that you set a boundary for yourself, that no man will ever be able to treat me in that way or lie to me, you will stop having those men come into your life. It is really as simple as that, but it is a process that each and every one individual needs to go through on their own. Yes, of course, you can do that with help, but you're the one that has to go through it. You're the one that needs to identify those blocks that you continue to carry that keep attracting these toxic men to you, right? It's something, a belief, an assumption, a voice that tells you that you can't do better than this. Essentially, I see it as a boundary. I see it as a line that you have not crossed onto the other side and have decided, because the moment that you decide this is not okay, this shit ain't happening no more, will be the moment that you will cut off from everything else, right? That's what the word decide means, to cut off from any other possibility and to step into your own power and your own truth. And these men, they're helping you to identify who you are not and what you do deserve. Because by identifying what you don't deserve is how you'll be able to see what is it that you actually do deserve. And most importantly, what is it that you actually want? Because in order for us to know what we want, we unfortunately need to experience the things that we don't want. And quite often, it's the same things that we believe we wanted. We experience them and we realize that's not what we wanted. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I know there's probably a million of questions that would come from this response. So feel free to reach out to me or Bethany and we can have a chat about it. And Bethany, I'll read it again so that way you can give in your response based on your knowledge and your experience as well. So do you have any recommendations on how to not attract certain kinds of people? Like I seem to pull in people, men, with the same issues, even if I pick them, because they claim to be the exact opposite of what they are.
So what comes up for me, and thank you for sharing that, or sharing that question with us. I love that we have some interaction today. Yay. So that's really awesome. But what first came to mind, boundaries. Exactly what you said, Yana. The boundaries are going to be super important. Another thing that comes up that's helped me in the past is to stop searching. Work on yourself, love on yourself, and that right person will come to you. What, like with a lot of the stuff that Yana was saying about, identifying what you don't want and then it identifies what you do want. Well, when you search within, you go within, you're going to find what you want. And for me, I've experienced this. I feel you. Before I met my husband, I had the same thing. I kept attracting people that would hurt me, that would be, would tell me they're a certain way. They weren't that way. But then I stopped looking and I started to work on myself. And then I met my husband, Brian. So it is possible. And it just takes time, it takes patience, it takes boundaries. And a thing you could ask yourself with this person, or in this topic, I feel like is a good one, is what's draining me here? What's the stuff that's draining me? And try to dig deep on it and go within and follow your heart. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but the hard stuff is so worth it. And you got this. Yeah. And
discomfort is temporary. Mm-hmm. It really is temporary, because if we all take a look at our life, and we are, let's say, uncomfortable right now, or going through this period of constant anxiety like I am right now, I choose not to suffer. I choose not to allow it to take over my existence, because it did in the past. And this is why I remember how I was in the past and how I had this constant feeling of anxiety, which came from a feeling of unworthiness. This is where anxiety comes from as well. So what we're saying here essentially is stop looking, stop trying, because in the trying, we often can make things worse. Like, for example, thinking of at a job is a huge source of anxiety for so many people now. And then the muzzle wearing, so right. But thinking back to, when you got in trouble at work, or your boss told you need to improve, you need to do better. And I know from myself, from my experience, and working with other individuals where I helped them to improve, uh, those that continue to try and try and try and did everything and did their best, those are the ones that continue to fail more. And in failing more, they eventually succeeded. And then those that didn't force it much, that just trusted that everything was going to work out and then they were going to get it, and that they were going to improve naturally, that they didn't need to force it, they didn't need to overdo it, they got there as well, right? Yeah. So those are two different paths, how we can continue to force something to work, right? When it comes to relationships with men, continue to put yourself out there and, you know, connecting with these men and doing everything you can in your power to find the right one. That's a huge amount of pressure. So just imagine if you took that pressure off yourself and you said to yourself, fuck this man. I don't need no man. I need a man, one man who will find me, but I am no longer going to be looking for him because I am going to trust myself and the universe that by me working on myself and caring for myself and loving myself and doing everything that is going to help me to become a better person for myself, that man will come. And I will tell you that everyone that I have met and spoken with that has taken that approach has found the one and is happier for it, right? So some of those women actually were already married to the one who they, in a way, despised. That's the word that comes to mind, where they just weren't happy. And the moment that they started looking at themselves and caring for themselves and putting themselves first, because that was their boundary, they set a boundary that I come first, you come later if there's time left for you, right? So by doing that, it changed the whole entire relationship that they were already in. That was, to them, was a dead end, that there was no way out of there. And by just simply focusing on themselves, and what some called it selfish, which was absolutely not, it was the most, taking care of yourself is the most selfless thing you can do, because not only are you, just think of it as energy, right? This is the best way to describe it. Think of it as energy. If you are barely surviving and you are the battery and there's this much energy in your battery, by you adding more energy into the battery, what you're doing is you're also adding that whole entire battery energy to the entire world, okay? Not just yourself. So by working on yourself, you are energizing the battery of the entire world, because we actually are connected. Whether we believe it or not, we are connected. And one of the things Bethany and I were just talking about before going live was how women have actually been the ones that have been suffering quite a bit from the moment that men discovered shoes. You know, from the moment that we discovered shoes and started wearing shoes, that we became completely disconnected from the very thing that gave us birth, right? I say this to my husband all the time, and he might think, he might call me crazy once in a while, but hey, hey, the universe is female, because only a female can produce and create life. So we became so disconnected from our mother that has given us life, that we have forgotten what it's like to be connected, and what it's like to be grounded, and what it's like to feel whole. And we've been told that what we need to feel that way is a house full of stuff, TV, social media, money and lots of it, and just acquiring things and friendships and relationships, which, yes, I agree. But to Nicole's question, how do you find the ones that fuel you? That's what I'm hearing from that question, because the ones that right now you are experiencing are draining. And that's because at a certain point in all of our lives, we have completely become disconnected from our true self. And that's why when Bethany talks about going outside, no matter how cold it is outside, how horrible and miserable it is outside, that's her medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to tell you that it's not just Bethany's medicine. It's every single living creature's medicine. You take a dog outside. I have yet to meet a dog that just wants to run back inside, unless it lived outside and it was abused. Okay. Every animal wants to go outside. My cats scream to go outside. We see these squirrels, this chipmunks outside, and they scream. And it's like a really loud, ear-piercing howl.
I know what you're talking. It's almost like a cat, like they're trying to call it, but they're not sure what it sounds like per se. So that's what they think it sounds like.
And the moment that I open the door, my cat runs the other way, because you guys probably know who Ramsey is at this point. He luckily just let me sit up straight because he sits on me and I can't move. I can, but I don't want to. But he has really fine fur, so he gets cold like this. He sits on our air vents when the heat comes up. Oh, nice. And he really loves it. So that's why he runs. But summertime, fall, spring, he is trying to get out there. And he's an indoor cat. So for me, I don't like him to go out there. And this is a new house. But what is he trying to tell us?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Go outside. Like today, I was wanting a little more healing. So I was able to find in the snow a little patch of ground, and I took my hand out of the glove and I just put my hand on the ground. And I had this instant feeling of like release, reset, and rejuvenation. And I was just like, whew, thank you, Mother Nature. And it's just a powerful thing when you connect with Mother Nature. You connect with all of her elements, and it helps you connect within as well. I'm a strong advocate for like, go outside, go feel that sun, like go feel the ground. And also, if you're in a cold area, cold weather therapy is a thing that I've done before, where going outside in the cold does the same thing as the grounding technique that I just explained by putting my hand on the ground. It does similar benefits. So, man, I don't know. She's amazing medicine.
Definitely, like Mother Earth, it knows, it wants to take everything from us that we don't want. So if you don't want your anxiety, go give it to Mother Earth. What do you mean by Mother Earth? Any plant, anything outside. The water, the grass, the frozen grass, the snow, which is the water, right? And what I want to say is that as Bethany said, you're a huge advocate for, grounding, going outside. I'm a huge advocate for setting boundaries.
I agree. Yeah.
Huge advocate for setting boundaries. And that means speaking your truth without having to explain it or mansplain it, right, to the men of what is it that you have just stated. And when it comes to relationships, but it sounds like, Nicole, you're looking for a relationship. Setting those boundaries is very important. And that needs to happen from the first second that you meet this individual, because everyone wants to get something from everyone else. It's just how it is, right? You're watching this. Whoever's watching this, you're watching this because you're getting something out of this, and you continue to watch because you're getting something out of it. And the moment that you no longer get anything from this video, you'll go, right? Whether the video is done or not, you'll go. This is just how human nature is, right? It's like you grow a plant and the plant has completely died. There's absolutely no life to it and you can't bring it back. Are you going to continue holding on to it, or are you going to move on and get a new plant? That's how we humans are. That's how relationships are. Nothing is meant to last forever. We don't live forever. Nothing does. Everything has a beginning and has an end. And what you do in between the beginning and the end, that's what really matters. And the moment that you decide and you choose to put yourself first over anybody else, that is the moment when you will truly start to feel free. So when it comes to relationships, the moment that somebody tells you or shows you their true colors, I want you to actually believe them. I want you to have this boundary for yourself. And the moment somebody tells you or shows you who they are, their true colors, I want you to believe them and not make any excuses, not make any rational reasons as to why they are the way they are. They do enough of that on their own. But I want you to believe them and then choose how you want to go from this point on. Do you want to continue allowing this kind of behavior or whatever it is that they're showing you? Do you want to continue allowing this or not? It's a simple yes or no. There are no maybes. So if the answer is no, and this relationship no longer serves a purpose, as painful as it might be to let go of them, I want you to ask yourself, 5 years from now, if you're still in the same place, in the same relationship, and nothing has changed, are you happy with yourself? Are you happy in the relationship? Are you continuing to suffer or not? Right? So we often don't look into the future. We don't. Like, perfect example when it comes to our nutrition. If we all took a pause before eating that cookie, knowing that, okay, this is a really good cookie, this is my favorite cookie, but I know that the moment, 15 minutes after I eat this cookie, I'm going to feel like total garbage, and I'm not okay with it, then the choice becomes really easy. But we don't do that. We don't really look too far into the future. 15 minutes is not far into the future, right? But 5 years, because I know if the way that I'm feeling today, and if I give into that feeling, 5 years from now, I would not be alive. And I'm telling you this because I've been through that, and I was really close not wanting to exist. So if it continued, if I didn't choose, if I didn't decide to face the unknown, which is the scariest thing in the world to every single human being, right? And there's different levels of fear. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't just turn around and face the unknown, I wouldn't be here. And if I give into the feelings that I have now and allow them to take over my existence for today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow, history will repeat itself. Yeah. Heck, history is repeating itself right now. Globally, but we're not here to talk about that, right? So, and at the same time, we also have a choice. Do we want to continue focusing on pending doom, or do I want something different?
Exactly.
Right? So, and it starts with a seemingly weaselly, tiny little boundary that nobody tells us, nobody teaches us just how important it is. And that your no, your response to someone saying no, is a response. It does not need anything else. It's just a no, without explaining or mansplaining or anything. You shouldn't have to do that, right? If somebody questions it, then that to me, it always indicates that there's lack of respect, that you don't respect me enough to take my no as a no. And until you do, there'll be no no's either.
Right. Oh, yes. I love that you brought that up. That's so true. I agree completely. Honoring your truths and being your true authentic self is also, and following your heart, I feel like is one of, like how you said there's like 5 main things. I feel like that's the 6th right there, you know, to add in for like those energetic drains, to lift yourself out of it. That I don't know, part of me just wants to, that's like top 1, go within that boundary that you're saying of, you know, following your heart, being your true authentic self. And I feel like once you do that, you'll find all those little things that you can reframe and change and rewire in your brain to what you want to be your true authentic self. So I really love that you brought all that up. That was a beautiful, like little section of this.
And I'm glad that Nicole asked that question, because she's talking about relationships with men in particular, but it's not just men. This is about relationships, period. So when you sit down with yourself and you go through the list of people that you're in contact with, and when I say in contact with, I mean in contact with. I don't like, it's your friends, your family, people that you talk to on social media, whether they're your friends or not, everyone that you're in contact with, you will really quickly be able to identify which one of them are energetically draining you, right? Some people just show up when they need something from you, and then afterwards they're gone, like the wind. And those are the people that I'm here to tell you, as a professional and as a human being, those need to go first, right? Now, if it's family or someone you can't fully get rid of, I'm not here to tell you to completely, you know, cut all contact with them, but have space and continue to remind yourself how important you are, and that if they don't get it, if they're no longer aligned with you, that it's okay to cut that energetic cord and not have to reach out to them, not have to jump the moment that your message goes off and you need to respond to them. That's another huge trigger for anxiety. People are not even aware of that. Alarm clocks as well. Like, alarm clocks are huge. Like, we're not meant to wake up with a siren going off. We're meant to wake up naturally, right? Like, it instantly puts you in panic. Yeah. So there are a lot, like half an hour, as you guys can tell, it's not enough to mention all these energetic drains that cause anxiety, but there are so many of them that we can continue to, you know, throw in here and there and everywhere. And yeah, like you just gotta identify them. So if it's the alarm, find a different way. The one thing that I've learned when it comes to alarms is because we're meant to wake up with the sunrise, right? With, you know, the roosters and the chickens going off. Not all of us are lucky to have those. Right. Normally we want to be woken up at 5:30 in the morning, But maybe that's how, when you're meant to wake up. There's alarm clock. I think it's like $30. It's reasonably cheap. It looks like the sun, and you can set up for this alarm to just have the light turn on, and it gradually turns on slowly until it becomes the full sunrise, and it's in your room. We have that, and my husband is like, I fucking hate this alarm because even the slightest bit of light, he's up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
good,
he wouldn't even wake until the full sunset. It's just a little bit of sun, and that's it. He's up. Right. So if you're that way, then make sure you set the alarm of this light come on when you actually want to wake up.
Yeah.
And not think, oh, by the time it's fully bright, you'll wake up then. There are solutions to all of our problems. And I'm also here to tell you that your problem is your gift.
Yeah.
And it might be challenging to see that, or to understand or grasp this truth right now. But there will be time when it will make sense. Because not everything is meant to make sense the moment that you hear it. It's not. Because we continue to change and we continue to evolve. And if this truth is not sitting in right now, it's okay. It will eventually when you're ready. And then guess what's going to happen? That truth will become your truth. These words will become your words, because these weren't my words. These were words of other masters, other gurus, other experts that eventually sunk in and became my words. So my words and Bethany's words will become yours.
It's what we've learned. And there's this one quote that one of my friends said was, pain is a teacher and healing is the lesson. And ever since I've heard that, it's just like, oh my God, that's so true. And what you're saying, your problem is your gift. I've just like found that to align there, like pain is a teacher, your lesson is the healing. Yeah, I do have a poem I wanted to share. And this kind of goes out to being your true authentic self. It goes to you growing and expanding and finding the person you want to be. Feel like the feeling is already yours. Attract what you're desiring. Show the universe you are in alignment by getting into alignment with the universe's frequencies and vibrations. Seek and you shall find.
That is very, very, very true. And I know a lot of people but are struggling with, how do you live in the now, feeling what it is that you want and desire in the now, when the reality is nowhere near what you see in the future. And the response is very easy. You practice it.
Yeah.
You practice, you practice, you practice, you practice, you practice envisioning it, visualizing it, whatever word you want to call it, where you're, taking the time to see that future and feel that future as if you're living in the now, right? And when it comes to, a lot of people still don't believe and don't fully understand that the reality they're living right now is self-created. And that's something that each one of us needs to go on our own journey to uncover and to actually understand. Because we can understand things consciously, and then it takes even longer to program the subconscious mind. So when you want something entirely different from where you are now, it is very difficult to experience it in the now. It is, because it's like, It's like wanting to see $1 million on your desk and visualizing it and trying to see it. It's, oh, I see it. And then you end up, not seeing it because it's not there. But continuing to see it and pretending it's there, allowing your inner child in, because she or he has a lot of tools that you're just not even aware of. Because as a child, you were able to travel and see the whole entire world if you wanted to, with a blink of an eye. And then you lost that skill, right? A lot of us had, imaginary friend, if you will, right? So that is a gift, being able to see something that's not physically there, but eventually can become there. So practicing it, like anything else, when it comes to setting boundaries, you got to practice setting those boundaries, because in the beginning, it will be hard. It will be hard to speak your truth. It's not meant to be easy to speak your truth. I mean, I'm going to rephrase that. It's meant to be easy to speak your truth, but because you've lived a certain life that has taught you that it's not, it has become really hard. It's hard to ask for help. It's hard to ask for support. It's hard to do a lot of things the first few times. But the more you do it, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. So just like visualizing, Yana, I can't see. I close my eyes and it's black. There's nothing there. I can't see. I can't clearly see the visions, right? I can't clearly, even looking at my own picture or looking at this, after I close my eyes, I can't see it. Well, no, not all of us have that gift initially, but it is it is a skill. Being able to see with your eyes closed is a skill. And like any skill, any one of us human beings can acquire it. Mm-hmm. Anyone. It just comes with a lot of practice. I started watching this show, Midnight Asia.
I saw that. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw it.
So I literally just 10, 15 minutes in, and because I like to see, that's my way of traveling, right? When I watch beautiful places, and there's 85-year-old woman who works from 4 until 11. And then she is a DJ. She learned how to be a DJ.
Wow.
That's and impressive. The first thought that popped into because right now I'm experiencing a lot of catabolic energy, right? So anxiety and feeling drained because I've been sick for over a week now. And, it affects you. And, Bethany knows this because she reminded me of this as well. This is for a purpose, Yana. So when you go through this, there's going to be something that you learn from this. Like, I know. God. Right? But being in this state, just watching an 85-year-old woman loving what she does. And in my mind, I'm like, how on earth can you love what you do when it's so busy, so many people, and you got to learn something new at 80 years old and be told that you suck at DJing and you continue to improve? That to her, the age is not a limitation. That says a lot about our mindset here. How, some people who are 30 years old, they're living like they're 70, and there's other people who are 85 and they're living like they're 30. It really is a mindset. And anxiety is a mindset. At this point, it might not feel like it's a mindset because it's just the body reacting, but at a point, it was your mind that told you something, you believed it, and you give into that, and you allowed it in. Anxiety is like that unwelcome friend that you know is bad news, you know you don't want that friend around you, you know they're going to destroy your life if you allow them into your house, but there's something in you that allows that friend in, and then that friend takes everything over. That's what anxiety is like. You allow this anxiety to come in once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, until it becomes the norm of existence. And then you finally realize, this is not my life. And, I say that our problem is our gift. My problem for a really long time, what feels like a whole entire lifetime, has been anxiety and depression. And I continue to find different ways to talk about it, different ways to put myself out there, different ways to talk about the problem without talking about the problem. But by not talking about the problem, by not acknowledging the problem, it's not going to resolve itself. And me doing it on my own, behind the closed screen, where nobody sees, nobody hears, nobody knows what is it that I'm doing to heal myself, because this is something that doesn't fully go away, or at least it hasn't fully gone away, that I'm not doing anyone any favors. So that's why just be putting it out there more and more and more and more. And that's why, all these topics are now covering anxiety and different places of where it comes from, different triggers, and different solutions for it. Because there's no, Cinderella comes to mind. The glass slipper is meant to fit Cinderella only. So my solutions, my help is not going to fit everyone. Right? But it is something that, it's like, when you're sitting down and there's no ideas flowing, you can't think and can't come up with anything, you need to go and do a little bit of research to find out what is it that can help you with something. And that's essentially what we do here. We're not here to tell you this is what works, this is the only way, and that's it. Right. There are many different ways, but what I will tell you is that all of those things lead back to one thing, and that is you and yourself.
Yeah.
And that's it. And not things outside of you, because all of us have gone and got a haircut because I feel like crap, I need to feel better about myself. I'll go get a haircut. How long does that last? Maybe 2 weeks if you're lucky, right? Or after the first wash, or before the first wash, right? We put our happiness outside of ourselves and think that it's dependent on something else, where it comes from within. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't taught to go within and talk about my feelings, emotions, my triggers, my fears, my anxieties. I was taught to, nobody needs to know. This is you and your own, you got to be tough and strong, because only those survive. Now, what does that tell an individual? It says that by you showing your weaknesses outside of yourself, you're going to die. Like, nobody wants to die, but that's exactly how the subconscious, embeds it in our minds, that by showing our vulnerabilities, they'll be used against us. Mm. But, everywhere that I'm watching, back to this, the show, 85-year-old woman, I don't think she thinks that way. right? I think she might not know 100% who she is, but she knows what she wants. She knows what makes her happy. So she will do that. And if somebody doesn't like it, she doesn't make it her problem.
Yeah. Teaches up. Right.
Right? Exactly. To each their own. Somebody doesn't like something. There's my new favorite video on TikTok. I'm gonna do one of those as well. It's like, you don't like me? And then you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's laughing. But
yeah. And then has that music like, I don't care, like I love that one. But it's true,
right?
It's like, okay, who cares? Go find someone else that that you align with. We're not going to align with everyone, but we will align with the people we're meant to help. Yeah. And we're not everyone's cup of tea, as you've said, and that's okay. And I don't mind that.
Right. It is one of those things that like I understand that it's like easier said than done. Mm-hmm. It is much easier said than actually done, because the doing part is the rewiring and change in the dialogue of the subconscious mind. Right? Consciously, we know that. But you got to be conscious of it almost on a daily basis and remind yourself and reprogram the subconscious. And that's why easier said than done. Yes, 100% agree with you. It's much easier to say it than to do it. But it's worth a lot more doing it than just saying it.
Lead by example. That's what I like to say. I like to lead by example. If I'm not doing it, then I'm not going to mention it. But if I'm doing it, I will mention it, and I'll tell you my experience. I'll tell you how it helped me, in hopes, as what we do here, it will help someone else. And we'll be able to ripple that little thing to someone else, and then they can ripple it out, and we shine bright and we show everyone our gifts.
Yeah, exactly. And our problems that come from our gifts.
Exactly.
Right. Tony Robbins had a big problem. Look at his solution to that problem now. Right. All the great people, they had more than just one problem. It's never just one. It's never just one. But that's what really makes us alive, because by overcoming our problems, we feel alive. It's like, oh, I did that. Like for me, sometimes I remind myself, like today and this week of sickness has reminded me of where I was just 5 years ago, 4 years ago, not wanting to exist and believing with all I had that I wouldn't survive it, that I wouldn't get through it, that I wouldn't overcome it. And it took me some time to believe it. Some moments like today still question that, because I get to relive how I felt, and I'm very quickly reminded of how I survived it.
Yeah. Shows you your growth and like everything you went through and like all the stuff you learned, all the tools and medicines that got you out of that place. It's one of those, yeah.
And just going over in my history of things that I've went through that are seemingly small, but they're not, and how all that gets thrown in the back of the attic, the subconscious mind. And that's who I am. That's who we are. Our subconscious mind is who we are. And that's why we don't fully know who we are. We continue to uncover who we are, but none of us really, really, really know exactly who we are, because it's in archives.
And it's our jobs to find out, go within to find that archive too.
Exactly. And some of them might be locked, right? So when unlocking those, some of you spiritual ladies, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a Pandora box. You would not want to open the whole thing right away. You gotta slowly open it and just start taking things out and dealing with it.
One thing at a time.
Exactly. And give yourself time with each thing, because we also have this unrealistic expectation that the moment we uncover one thing, just because we uncovered it, it's miraculously gone. No. Each thing takes a little bit of time, and it's different for everyone. It takes a little bit of time to heal through. Right. So whatever that healing means for you. Anyways, we are way past our time.
Hey, well, I feel like the conversation really charged us up and got us going, got us I helped expand and grow, so I'm okay with that. First, I know we were talking about, okay, we're just going to keep it 30 minutes, but hey, this is Heal the Unicorn and we are healing.
Yeah. So. And this unicorn needs some healing. So I don't know if you guys can tell by my voice, but I've been battling and becoming friends in a way with my flu, and it's been an interesting journey. Needless to say, you guys got to hear, there's a lot of reminiscing of how I used to live, which was a survival state of survival, and I believe that it's important to be reminded of those things once in a while, so we can really appreciate where we are. Because when we forget and lose track or sight of where we are, we need those harsh reminders. And this is why I am thankful for a flu. Even though I'm, irritated, on edge, annoyed, tired, frustrated, all of those catabolic feelings and emotions, I'm still thankful for them, because that's like a whole spectrum of what it's like to be a human. We need all those feelings and emotions. And if I can't experience them any other ways, then the flu allows me to experience it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Everything has its purpose. Yeah.
Until it serves its purpose, and then, okay, you serve its purpose, get out.
Right? Yep, exactly. But it has to serve its purpose first before it goes. Because it's like, you didn't learn it yet. Oh, wait a minute. Patience. It's something that I'm learning. And since last year, beginning this time, I really started focusing on patience, and I'm still learning my patience. So it takes time, but I've come a long way from where I was. Yeah. And that's progress. Practice makes progress.
Not perfection, it's progress.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. So anyways, thank you, Bethany. Go take care of your family. I'll go.
Yeah. Take care of you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you once again. And thank you everybody for watching and listening, and your feedback and your input. I hope this was helpful, enlightening, or whatever it was, whatever that one magic word is. Drop it down below and let me know. And if you like this content, then subscribe to whatever you're finding this video on. And so subscribe, like, and share it there.
Yeah.
Share it with somebody else who can benefit from it as well.
And thank you. Thanks for having me again. I love our little weekly chats. They're always so healing. And my word for all this is expanding. That's what came up for me. Expanding. So thank you, everyone. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Sending you all so much love and healing vibes. And until next week.
Yes, until next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye, Bethany.